Now let's look at lambda function in Python. So in Python we have, apart from normal function, we also have lambda function, which can also be called as an anonymous function. And we normally use lambda functions especially if we need to complete our function in just a single line of code. So let's look at the example of it. So first of all, we have these normal functions, right? Which starts with this def keyword. Okay, it has the function name, and then it has the argument, and we have the expression in the body. So this is how our normal function looks like. Whereas the lambda function, on the other hand, it has this lambda keyword. So it starts with this lambda keyword, okay, and it then is followed by the argument, and now the expression. So this is our lambda function. So we use it if you want to perform the function computation in just a single line of code. And let's look at some of the examples of the lambda function. Let's say we need to perform some mathematical computation on, let's say, some scalar values. So let's start with this lambda, okay, and then I've got this argument in here. So let's pass an argument of x colon. Let's perform x times x. Okay, this is going to be my output, and let's say we're going to perform it on certain scalar values. So for that, we got to put this inside this small bracket. Now pass the value here. Okay, let's say I'm going to pass 12. Let's run it. There we go. So we perform the multiplication on our scalar values. Let's perform it on the list as well. So let's use the lambda function to perform some manipulation on the list. So let's create a list, and let's pass some values in here. So this is my list. Now let's try to filter things out. See, in Python there are certain classes which can take function as the argument, for example the filter or the map, and in those classes, okay, it is favored to use lambda function as the argument. So let's filter this list. Okay, now this filter, it takes two arguments. So the argument are function and the iterable. So iterable in our case is the list. So let's pass this function as the argument. Well, you guessed, I'm going to pass this lambda function. So let's extract each of the item as x. Okay, and let's filter it by the odd or even. So let's filter it by the even number. So if x modulus 2, okay, is equal to 0, so let's do it by the even number on our list. Okay, so the first argument is the function and second argument is the iterable. So list is an iterable, and this performs the operation. Now to extract it out, since this is a list, we're also gonna put this, wrap this inside the list. Okay, so this is an example of using the lambda function inside our filter class. Okay, this takes two arguments. One is the function, another one is the iterable. Now let's also perform the lambda on the map. So let's create another list. So let's call it my list 1, and let's pass some random values in here, and let's try to square this list. Okay, let's map it to a square. So let's create this squared list. This is going to be equal to, okay, so to extract it, you got to put this inside the list. I'm going to map. Now it's going to take two things again, the function and the iterable. So the function is going to be the lambda. Okay, let's pass each element. Okay, let's extract each element as x, and let's square this. So to square it, I can write x times x, or just write the power x power by 2. And now the iterable is this mylist1. Okay, and now let's print the squared list. There we go, my list is now squared. Now there's certain areas where using lambda function is quite redundant. For instance, if the function inside, okay, see, I've used function within the function here, I've used the power function here. Now if the function inside only takes one argument, okay, it's not necessary to use the lambda function. So the example of it would be, so let me copy this same list, and let's put some minus values in here. Okay, so there is a function called absolute. Okay, there is this abs function which only takes one argument. So let's create the absolute values out of it. So I'm gonna return the list. Okay, I'm gonna map each of these items in here. Okay, so normally, okay, if you were to use this lambda function, we would just do lambda, okay, take the x, okay, and then return the absolute value of the x, okay, on my list 1. So this is what we would do. But since this only, now this, by the way, this works as well. So if I try to print it out, it works. But this is redundant right here. So you don't have to pass the lambda. You can just directly, okay, pass the abs, okay, and let's run it, and there we go. Okay, so there's certain areas where you don't necessarily need to pass the lambda function. That would be when the inside function has single argument. Now lambda function is great, but it does have certain pros and cons. So pro is good for simple logical operations that are, well, quite easy to understand. So if you want to perform things in a single line, this is great. Okay, this makes code readable, well, especially if you are a Python programmer and if you are used to looking at lambda function, it's quite readable. And it's also great if you want to use function for just one time. So this is one and done, so you can't use it again and again. You can't call this, for example, this function, right? You can't call this again and again. Okay, so we need to call the function many times if you need the reusability of your code. Well, it's not recommended to use lambda function. Now another thing about lambda function is it doesn't perform multiple expressions. See right here, it just filters things out, or it just map the item, so it only performs one expression. So these are some of the pros and cons of lambda function. And lambda function is quite used in the pandas, which is the library for data analysis in Python.